um, so that way you have an idea what is going on today in our meeting. And we've got more folks coming, so we're going to keep admitting people. And I see folks are getting their introductions into the chat. Thank you so much. If we could keep doing that, that's really helpful. Helpful for us to know who's here, but also for our partners to know who all is here. And I know that sometimes folks reach out kind of behind the scenes and maybe even within the chat, because you can message specific people when they see folks they want to have a chat with. And so it's just good to know who's here. So I think we are going to jump right in today. We have some great things on our agenda. And I want to make sure that we give as much time as possible to all of those things. So I would like to introduce first Patty Umfred, who is our Director of Strategic, operations? What's the official title? I know I saw it go through there at some point in time. She's our strategic planning guru for self-sufficiency. There we go. And she has a presentation for you today about just some important vision and transformation information for you all and ways to take part in that collaboration. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Patty.
Thank you, Misha, and good afternoon, everyone. Patty Umfred, I use she, her pronouns. I think Misha elevated me to director level. I am not at that level. I even kind of stumble when I say, my actual title, but strategic planning person sounds good enough to me. So thank you so much for giving me time on this agenda. My goal for today is to share with you some important new direction that we're hoping to take within self-sufficiency programs. And today's will literally just be a 15-minute overview and introduction to the work that we're doing and a kind of showing you what we're heading into this fall in terms of building a more detailed action plan and asking for your participation. So that'll, of course, be the final goal. I am going to attempt to share my screen. I am not as adept at Zoom sharing screens, but we'll see if I can pull this off. And I would love it if somebody could give me a verbal thumbs up or that you can see it.
We do see it, but we also see all of the slides. So it's not in view mode yet. There it is.
There we go. Okay, that was pretty painless. All right, thank you so much. So this will probably not need to be said with this group, but self-sufficiency programs, I always like to start with who we are and what we do. We have a lot of different programs and you've engaged with many of them, but we're really focused on making sure that we're meeting people's basic needs with the goal of supporting individual, family, and community well-being. We do everything from benefits distribution, we provide coaching, navigating services and supports to make sure that people get what they need. And we're one of the few program areas that really serves Oregonians across their entire lifespan. And our focus is very much around reducing poverty and stopping the cycle of poverty. And I'll talk a little more about that in a minute. This is just a kind of a declaration of our values, what we believe, and I'm sure it will connect with what you believe as well, but basically just that everyone deserves those opportunities to thrive and reach their full potential. And that there are some locked doors, right? So sometimes we encounter barriers and we have to acknowledge that if we don't have the keys that you need, that you're not going to be able to, unlock the door to your potential. The keys that we work on and provide are those financial resources. So making sure families have, their needs being met, including having food, housing, childcare, and other social determinants of well-being. So we're working on all of this. I want to say, it's definitely a work in progress. I wouldn't claim that we have accomplished everything to the degree that we hope to, but those are the values that we're starting with. What I'm going to present to you today is a bridge. We're calling it a bridge strategy. The reason from that is we know that there's a call from the governor's office. So we have a new governor in this year. Governor is asking for us to really focus on customer service and how are we serving the people that we work with. We also have direction from ODHS leadership to make sure that we are working as one ODHS. So we are not presenting as siloed program areas. So we have that direction. And then there's a lot of changes that are happening within self-sufficiency programs this year. You've heard and engaged in conversations around our eligibility work transitioning to the Oregon Eligibility Partnership. So from a consumer perspective, that's a really positive thing because it's really providing that one-door access for, access to services across no matter what your needs are. From the internally within SSP, that there's a lot of change involved because what that means is a large percentage of our staff are transitioning out of SSP. So we had a lot of, staff asking the question, what does that mean? Are we going away? What does that mean for us? The answer is very clearly no. We have really critical work that we are still engaging in, and this provides us this opportunity to really be clear about what that is. So that was the genesis of why we wanted to do this really high-level vision, and then develop a much more detailed action plan. So the reason I'm calling it a bridge strategy is it's a short-term interim strategy for 2024 to guide our work. Oregon Department of Human Services is also undergoing a big strategic planning process. We don't want to get out ahead of that. So that's another reason why this is an interim strategy. So our goals are very connected to what our core work is. And as you know, it's really around economic mobility and stability. The thing that I want to call out as you see these goals is we're talking about not just meeting people's basic needs. So that has been something that has certainly been within our wheelhouse all along. And we are, we provide benefits, we address people's needs in crisis, and that's really critical. And we need to continue to do that. And we want to take that next step to make sure that we actually are unlocking those doors to work with individuals to make sure that they have what they need to get out of that cycle or to provide the stability they need to actually thrive and do what they want with their lives. So that's why you'll see a bit of a shift here in terms of lifting people out of poverty, and to the extent we can, helping them, keeping them from experiencing poverty in the first place. We wanted to not just look at just service level, but we also want to look at systemic issues. So we definitely have called out, systemic discrimination, which has caused the racial wealth gap. And we want to make sure that we're supporting each person individually based on what their needs are. So where we're going, this is kind of the how, and this is very much aligned with, again, direction from the Department of Human Services. It's also aligned very closely with our child welfare partners. So we work, self-sufficiency and child welfare work very much hand in hand. And so we wanted to make sure that we were also aligned with their child welfare vision for transformation. So all of this is very much connected. So these are the kind of the principles, if you will, for how we want to do our work going forward. And I'll walk through those briefly. First and foremost, we want to lead with equity. So what we talk about here is kind of where we were and where we want to go. So where we were was more of that equality, right? We treat everybody the same. And where we want to go is that we actually want to listen to community, use information to make sure that our programs are actually meeting the needs and making a difference in the lives of those who are still being left behind because of systemic issues. We value partnership and collaboration. So, in the past, I think we can safely say many government agencies have operated in silos. And so what a lot of the ongoing work that we're doing right now is really trying to break down those silos. And we want to really ensure that our staff have the support they need to partner and collaborate both internally across programs and also externally with all of you and with our other community partners. Honoring lived experience, it's that shift from we know best to you know best. And so really elevating that as a core principle, that we're accountable to communities and that we want to listen to what people's needs are and honor what they know to be, and as they are stewards of their own lives and their own families. And then finally, recognizing the importance of a really diverse and strong and supported workforce. So it's workplace culture, it's how are we attracting good people, how are we keeping good people, and how are we helping them grow so that they can provide service to the people in Oregon. So here's some examples of what this might look like in action. These are some examples of things that are already happening, and this is the kind of thing we're going to want to build on as we're building the action guide. So in terms of leading with equity, one of the examples that we talk about is having listened to community impact and doing away with the full family sanctions for TANF. So that's something that we've talked about here. Partnership and collaboration, contracting, so trying to do more and more work of getting the resources and the funding into community, also having contracts with tribes to make sure that they're able to do that work. Honoring lived experience, we've created a youth advisory board for the Youth Experiencing Homelessness project. And then supporting our workforce, we have increased the number of information sessions internally and externally, especially for positions where we're seeing a decline in the diversity of applicants. So we're trying to give people better access to understanding what positions are and how they might qualify. And I'm almost to the end, so I'll stop talking here shortly. The thing I want to call out here is that the vision into action is a very high-level document. It's literally a 2-page, high-level, inspirational, hopefully inspirational vision. It's not what's going to get us to the action on the ground. And so the work that we're doing right now, and the work that I'm going to be asking all of you to support is taking that high-level vision and connecting it to the services that we provide. So we're doing a lot of work with, we want to work with staff, we want to work with our community partners, we want to work with our tribal partners to really kind of come to what does that actually look like on the ground? And again, looking at a year's time, what are the most important things we can do to make sure that we're moving toward that vision, but in a very tangible way. So that's the exercise. We plan on having a vision into action guide developed by the end of this year that will be a living document. So it's something that we'll continue to revisit. We'll continue to work with partners internally and externally to make sure that we're learning as we go, and we're monitoring and we're making changes. So this is where my ask for you is, and again, today is really just kind of that initial overview, so you can be thinking about this and what advice you might have. But we do want to make sure that we have multiple opportunities. And so the first is just, we have an email address here, and I'll also put it in the chat, but it's an email that will go directly to, well, I would say the team, but it's really to me. So you can send it to me, or you can use my personal email, either way. But if you have questions, we are developing a frequently asked questions document. If you have suggestions right off the bat, please send those to me at any time, and I would love to hear from you. We are going to take a portion of the next meeting for this meeting, so our partner meeting in October, to do some breakout groups and really have a chance to engage more fully with this and start to gather your feedback. We will also have an open community listening session from 10 to noon on November 2nd. And we'll make sure that you have a link to that as well. One of the things I'm really excited about is that we have a work group, an internal work group that has staff from across virtually every type of job within SSP. So everyone from a family coach to administrative support specialists, and all different kinds of jobs in between, so that we can make sure that we're thinking about impact to service, especially to service delivery, but also to policy. How are we looking at all the work we're doing, and how are we connecting? So at that listening session, we'll have work group members will be helping to facilitate the breakouts for that. And then we'll also have a survey coming later this year. And I do want to note as well, I noticed that we have some of our tribal partners on the call, and we are going to be presenting at the Tribal Directors meeting on October 3rd. Our director, Claire, whom you met last month, I think, will be presenting there, and really using that as an opportunity to ask as well from tribal leaders how they would like to participate in this process going forward. So I just wanted to call that out. Okay, so with that, I'm going to end the slideshow. See if anyone has any initial questions. I know that I think we have a few minutes.
We do have a question in the chat. Would you like me to read it?
Please.
Can you tell me, is this Vision into Action funded on a grant, or is it a program that will always be?
Good question. I wish we had funding from a grant. No, at this point, it is really an internal planning document. So it's how we are doing our work to make sure that we are providing the end services that we want to provide. So in terms of, it's not a program in and of itself, right? So what it is it's the planning that kind of goes across all of the program areas that we serve. So there's no separate funding for this work. It's really just my role and a few others that are helping to do this work. But I mean, I think one of the things that we will hear and have heard, of course, is the need for how are we coordinating funding? How are we doing a better job of, of connecting and coordinating and looking for additional funding? One of the things that we've talked about with our policy team is exactly that. For areas outside of, federal funding, how can we do a better job of ensuring we're getting resources into the hands of the community and the people that need those services? So, oh, I just realized I was still screen sharing. Okay, I stopped.
No problem.
Any other initial questions, thoughts, suggestions for me? Okay, and I'll monitor the chat as well. And I think Misha will be sharing materials afterwards. I'll make sure that you have both the PowerPoint that we used today, but also the 2-page document that I referred to. That's the current version. And then we'll be, building out. So we will also be coming back once we have, once we are getting staff and community and our tribal partner input, we'll be coming back with a draft of the action guide. That again is going to be that very detailed, hopefully very tangible, concrete action steps that we can take. That's our goal for 2024. So with that, I'll just thank you for your time. I will put some links in the chat, and I'll turn it back to Misha.
Thanks, Patty. So we really are hoping that you will engage with us in this process and share your thoughts and your feedback and help us come up with a guide so that we are really providing the best service to Oregonians that we can. There is I did copy in the email address for the Vision into Action. So if you do have any thoughts right now, because we don't have that survey written just yet, go ahead and send them. You don't have to wait for the breakout sessions next week or for our community partner listening session. And we also know that, you might not be available during those times. Hopefully you are, so we can, hear from you directly. But if not, we want you to be able to have other outlets to share that information and feedback with us. So thank you. Absolutely, James. All right. I saw Antonio pop on screen for a moment. I saw his face. Antonio,
Hi,
are you ready?
Good afternoon. Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you.
So let me see. I need to share my screen as well. So let me see if I can find the correct one. Let me know if you can see it.
I see it.
Okay. So again, my name is Antonio Perez. I use he, him, el pronouns. I work with the Oregon Department of Human Services as a SNAP policy analyst. I just wanted to provide a quick update on what the able-bodied adult without dependent program, the work requirements that are needed for SNAP based on certain individuals. I just wanted to give a start by giving you a quick reminder of the areas that are currently being impacted by the SNAP time limits. So we have 6 or 8 counties in Oregon which are applying the SNAP time limits. You've seen this map before, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just to let you know, this map is based on the start of the application of SNAP time limits because of the end of the public health emergency. This map, or the counties where we're applying time limits, will not change until the end of December 2023. And then with the start of our new waiver year, which follows the calendar year, we'll have a new list of counties that will be applying time limits. And so this map will change at that point. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because it's a quick reminder of how the Fiscal Responsibility Act changes are being implemented in the state of Oregon. So again, this slide has the actual list of the counties, the 22 counties which are currently being waived. The counties where, even though they're not waived, we're not applying time limits, and the counties where we are applying time limits, but also as a reminder, Oregon Employment Department is offering case management services for individuals impacted by this policy. And so, again, with the Fiscal Responsibility Act, we are being required by federal law to start applying the time limit rules to an increased age group. And the slide outlines how these changes are supposed to be applied based on what the federal bill says. In Oregon, so we're doing what we can to comply with the law, but because our system is not being updated until the end of the year based on numerous things that we don't need to get into details, but we will be starting to apply the work requirements starting January of 2024 for the new age groups. And so we're, and that's the reason why I mentioned that that the list of counties is going to change based on our on the start of our new waiver for our calendar year 2024. And so we're aligning this change to align with that change so that if we start applying the changes earlier than that or on a different calendar year, it might become confusing. So we're trying to align the change along with the change in counties that will be impacted. So as of this time, we don't have a new list yet. We're still looking at the data or waiting for the data to determine if there's going to be any changes in our list. But so that's what we're doing with the age range. With the new exemptions, we're taking a different approach though. We are doing a workaround in our system, and we have been screening individuals who have been connecting with the department since July. And anytime the ABOT team, so the special unit of workers that is focusing on this body of work, whenever they make contact with someone who's impacted by the time limits, we are screening for the new exemption and putting that information in their case, so that if someone is now, if someone is a veteran experiencing homelessness, or if they were a former foster care youth still under the age of 25, that information is included in their case, so that if they reside in an area that is applying time limits, or in the future they are supposed to be having to meet the work requirements because they now meet the age range that has been increased, they won't be required to do those the work activities because they need an exemption. And of course, when we screen someone, we're not only screening for these 3 exemptions, we're screening for the list of all exemptions. So just a quick review: health issues. If somebody has health issues that prevent them from working, if they are students, if they are caring for someone who's unable to care for themselves, if they are receiving alcohol and drug treatment, if they are already working and meet and exceeding the income limits, if they receive unemployment, if they receive cash benefits. I believe I captured most of them, but I will show a reminder. We have our website where we have this information. So we ask, that you continue to help us share the information regarding contacting our ABOT team. So I'm displaying a website that has the information. So people who are impacted by the work requirements are being notified. We've notified them before the start of the work requirements. Every time they receive SNAP benefits and are not meeting the work requirements, they get a notice. We ask them to contact their ABOT team so that they can be screened for the exemptions if they are doing work activities, so that those activities can be captured in their case. And if necessary, if they are seeking assistance to help complete the work activities, so that they may be referred to the Oregon Employment Department, so that a SNAP caseworker can be assigned and have a conversation with them about what activities would be appropriate for them based on their individual circumstances. So again, this information has been shared with this group before, but we will continue to share and ask that you share with individuals. If you know that if they are coming to you and asking you, hey, I received this letter, it tells me about work requirements, I got accountable month, what should I be doing? Please have them contact the ABOT team. And again, this is the contact information. Thank you.
Thanks, Antonio. We do have a question in the chat. Can students who are on SNAP find out if they are listed as a student on their case using the one system? And it looks like James was answering that.
But if Antonio has something, I'd love to hear it too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, so with student status, if they are at least half-time students of any kind, so I'm not just referring to the students of higher education, because that seems to be confused. If they are a student of any kind, if they're in high school, if they are in a community college, graduate program, any program of any kind, they're half students and they have been determined eligible for SNAP, they should be also exempt from the work requirements. So that's very important that people know. And so they can connect with us and ask if that information is in their case. If they're not receiving letters about work requirements and they're living in a county that is applying the time limit, so the system would have already automatically exempted them for that reason, if we are aware that they are students. But if they have gotten a notice where they are being told that they received accountable month, but they are students, they should be calling the ABOT team so that that information can be captured in their case, and so that they can be made exempt from the work requirements. And again, because it's very important, because we do expect the list of counties to change. Even if they don't reside in a county that is currently applying the time limits, it's a good idea for people to report any exemptions that they may be eligible for, so that if starting January, their county does move into or become a county that is applying the time limits, that exemption is already in their case. Well, but we do plan to send notices before we start applying time limits to any group of individuals, or if there's new counties, to new counties, or people residing in new counties, about the change and the possibility of them being impacted by the work requirements.
Thank you, Antonio. Does anybody else have questions? All right. Well, if you do, feel free to put those in chat, and if Antonio's here, he'll get right back to you. If not, we'll get those to him, so
Yes.
he can get those answered for you.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. So I'm actually on the agenda next. Let me get my screen shared here. All right, hopefully you all can see my screen. It doesn't have a little green frame around it like I'm used to. Sometimes Zoom does updates. It changes things on me. All right, so last month we rolled out a survey about this meeting to give you a chance to let us know if this meeting's working for you, if you have suggestions, you'd like to see things different. And I wanted to report back out to you what we heard and recommendations for moving forward. So we're going to spend a little bit of time taking a look at that now. So just a quick summary of the data. We emailed 502 recipients this survey on both the 10th and the 17th of August and presented in this meeting, which had about 60 attendees, similar to today. We received a total of 45 responses back. Most of these were generated from the initial email and this meeting because they were immediately received after this meeting. We had about 39 community organizations that self-identified. That was an optional question, and 6 ODHS staff that participated in the survey. So as you are looking, this very first one here, how long have you been attending self-sufficiency meetings? The blue is 6 months or less. The green or the orange is 6 months to 2 years, and the green is more than 2 years. So that gives you an idea of the folks on this call and how long they have attended. How do you feel about the length? Blue is I like it. So I'd say in general, we're doing pretty good. We can't quite make it everything for everybody, but most people are pretty happy with the length. How often would you prefer to meet? Blue is monthly current. So as you can see, that's definitely the largest response rate there. And does this meeting time work for you? Again, blue is yes, that is the highest response rate. So based on those who took the survey, which I know is a little askew because most of them are people who are in the meeting, that this meeting time does work and the length is working. What platform do you prefer? So the largest response is Zoom. So that's the platform they're on right now. We have the second largest is that either is okay. We did have a few from Teams, but they were all from ODHS. So that speaks to our comfort because we do use Teams internally a lot. So based on this, I would say that we will continue to use ZoomGov because it does seem to be the best option for folks. And then we had a question about camera use. So in some ways it was pretty inconclusive, but the clear forerunner here that I have highlighted is that people like to see the person who is speaking. So that seems to be really what's important. If you're speaking to the group, being able to see who you are. So some other data that we gathered, why do you attend these meetings? We had 45 responses, 44 of the 45 come for updates. So that's an important piece. What would you like to see more of? We've got collaboration and community and partner presentations. What are you interested in hearing more about? Employment and training programs and housing were the top 2. By the way, I am sending this out, so you will get to see a little more closely if you're wanting to read everything as it's listed down. You'll have the opportunity to do that. Some additional feedback that we received. Is there someone from another organization or agency that we should invite? We had some specific individuals named, and then we were also asked to invite tribal organizations. We do have some tribal representation, but to expand on that. And would you utilize language interpretation if available? 6 of the respondents said yes, and the requested language for that was Spanish. Additional feedback and requests. Not interested in open forum discussions. We had a few people state that. I would like to see people with lived experience in these meetings. I'm interested in a 1-hour lunchtime meeting. I'd like to hear how ODHS is working with Oregon Health Authority on Medicaid waiver 1115. I'm interested in knowing what everyone does and if there's a way to connect directly with them outside of these regularly scheduled times. I'm interested in providing feedback in a different way so that I don't feel so put on the spot. I would like to see more community speaking up during the meeting. Sometimes the meetings get repetitive. Time would be better spent addressing other upcoming issues or ongoing struggles. Can you add an introduction explaining the purpose of the meeting and the agenda items? I feel like topics are client specific and they don't directly apply to my work. So quick summary. Based on the responses that were provided, the meeting length, time, and duration works for most people. Zoom Gov is the preferred platform. Camera use preference is divided, but most would prefer to see the person speaking. Most people attend to hear updates. Attendees would like to see more collaboration and program presentations from both community partners and ODHS. And that there's interest in employment and training presentations and topics around housing. I'm not going to read through all these organizations, but these are the organizations that self-reported when they were answering the survey. So just so you have an idea of the folks who did participate in the survey and provide that feedback. So recommendations for improvement. What are we going to do differently? We just asked you all this stuff. So now what? So here are the recommendations. Develop a purpose statement for the meeting or revise the current one. Expand the welcome to include welcome, purpose, agenda, and recording acknowledgement. Welcome camera usage and ask that all speakers turn on their camera where possible. Incorporate more program presentations. Recruit community partner presentations, including other state agency programs. Schedule presentations for each employment and training program. Incorporate housing topics. Incorporate breakout sessions more frequently for community voice and connection. Add additional meeting opportunities for collaboration. Add Spanish interpretation to the self-sufficiency partner meetings. Be intentional regarding repetition of material and consider how much repetition is necessary. Create an ongoing survey for community partner feedback and provide the link in the self-sufficiency partner, in all self-sufficiency partner listserv communications. Invite specific people and organizations and communities as suggested. Follow up with partners regarding feedback where able, and schedule the requested presentations. I'm going to go back to that screen in just a moment so that you can kind of sit with it because you might have some thoughts, but we received some really positive feedback and that always feels good. So I wanted to share some of the feedback that we got as well. I appreciate the meetings. I learn valuable information here and can express frustrations I may have with things like enrolling students in SNAP and get helpful answers and assistance. Very helpful. Can't wait to hear more about ODHS and student housing with HB 3395. I really enjoy these meetings. They have been a link that allowed me to solve some of my organizational and client issues. I appreciate the people who are often representing ODHS in this space. It's challenging to work with the self-sufficiency programs that are so limited in their accessibility to all communities in need. So it helps to be able to connect with people like Claire Seguin, James Barda, and Misha Mares because their heart is in the work. I'm grateful they genuinely seem to care about the communities we serve and understand that we fall short because of the systems in place. It gives me hope. I find these meetings very useful for a nonprofit organization and as a STEP services provider. And so with that, I'm going to open the floor for any thoughts, feedback, questions. I'm going to go ahead and go back a couple slides so you can see the recommendations based on the data and feedback that we received. Would anyone like to say anything before I kind of close on this particular piece? And if there's something in chat, if someone could read that for me, that would be great. I don't know if there is.
There's nothing in chat yet.
Okay, thank you, James. Well, I wanted first to thank you everybody who did participate in the survey. It was, it was really informing to be able to look through it all. We got some great feedback. Where possible, I have reached out to folks who self-identified to follow up on some specific feedback that was received. I hope that we can try to address any concerns that might have been brought up or make improvements in those areas. I will say I purposefully didn't add these recommendations into today's meeting because I wanted you to see the data and the recommendations, so that as changes happen over the next few months and we begin to implement some of these recommendations, you know where it's coming from, and that we really are trying to listen to the feedback that you provided and to revise the meeting so that it works best for everybody. So anybody have any other thoughts? I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. All right. Well, with that, at the bottom of the updated agenda, you'll see there's some new resources, and we're going to talk about those now. I think you'll find that these resources actually will address some of the recommendations and thoughts that folks had. These are actually things that we had in the works, so it's nice. We can present them to you right after seeing these recommendations, and just know that we will continue working on the recommendations and moving on from there. So I'm going to hand it over to James, who's going to talk about the welcome guide. James, would you like me to share that, or did you want to share it?
Oh, you can share it. And while
Okay.
you're setting it up, this a welcome guide was this idea that came up a while back, and and there's lots of wonderful ideas out there. And so I ruminated with this and thought it would be, but I didn't do squat. And so I just want to thank Misha for actually acting upon a good idea and making this happen. The idea is, hey, there's always new partners that we're getting to know, who are doing good work, or as is often the case in your organization, you've got a new employee. There's always turnover as well. It's like, it would be nice to have something akin to an onboarding document. It's like, oh, so you want to connect with ODHS and maybe self-sufficiency more directly. Well, this is a starter document. And this is just something that you can give a new employee when it's like, hey, I want you to work with SSP and things. Here's a way to get to know them. And like I already said, Misha did the bulk of the work on this, so I'm going to turn it over to Misha to talk a little more detail about it.
Thanks. I wanted James to be able to introduce it because it was definitely his vision, and I just kind of went with it and worked with our program managers to try to come up with the best that we could for you. Try to keep it simple, not too much, but helpful. So this will go out in our follow-up email. So we have a short description for each program, as well as a link where you can find more information. So we've got our SNAP program, or our food program. We've got our cash program, temporary assistance for needy families. Refugee services. Our domestic violence survivor programs. Youth experiencing homelessness program. We have information on how to apply or renew benefits, to include links to the One System, the phone number to call, links to our local offices so you can find your local office, links to where you can find an application and print an application if using the One System is not what's going to work best. Also, a couple links to a few programs that aren't self-sufficiency programs, but are in our One System and very important to Oregonians that we serve. So our employment-related daycare program and the Oregon Health Plan. So that's linked there. We have information about the Oregon One mobile app. So if you didn't remember James had talked about the One Mobile app. It is live, and you can utilize that for looking up communications and uploading documents and just managing benefits there. One of the requests that came out of the recommendations is being able to reach out to folks outside of the meeting. How do we get a hold of them? How do we ask those questions? So my email and James' email is right there. You can reach out to either of us and we will help connect you. If you want to speak to a specific program, we have some emails to specific programs here like SNAP Outreach, Refugee Programs, TANF, Employment Training. We've had special email for ABOD and our Domestic Violence Survivor programs. So you can reach out directly to that program staff with questions. We also have engagement opportunities listed so that you know all the different ways that you can engage. And as we bring new folks on, they can learn that too. So we have our Self-Sufficiency Partner meeting, which you're at right now. And there's a link here to YouTube if you can get to all of our meeting recordings there. The SNAP Partner meeting. SNAP Employment and Training Steering Committee meetings. Poverty Relief Task Force. And Youth Experiencing Homelessness Advisory Committee. And if you're not connected with any of these and you have an interest, each one has a contact where you can reach out and learn more and find out if there's an opportunity to join in that engagement. So we will get this out to you. I hope you find it helpful so that you know how to get to more information and where to go to ask questions. And please feel free to share it with other partners that maybe aren't here or some new employees that you're bringing on. We really do want this to be helpful for all of you. I'm going to go ahead and stop share there. I think I saw something pop up in chat. Oh, you're welcome, Zoe. And just for time's sake, I'm going to move on to the next piece. So if you have any thoughts and you want to put it in chat, feel free. Feedback survey. I should have kept my screen share going, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and share it now. All right, so there was an ask for being able to share in a different way where, maybe it's uncomfortable to share in the moment and you have something that you want to share. We did create this partner feedback form. What I will do is I will link this on all my communications going out. It'll just be a part of my signature. So if you have feedback you would like to share with us, not about this meeting, although it can be about this meeting, really any feedback you have for self-sufficiency that you would like to provide. We hope this will be helpful for you. So you click on start, mark the different programs that maybe this applies to. And then you can just type in your feedback directly, whatever that may be. If you have feedback to share on behalf of an Oregonian you're working with, you can do that as well. And then optional, leaving your name, organization, and contact information. So if you'd like this to be an anonymous feedback, that is totally fine. And we will receive it and we will move forward with it. But we do like to follow up. So if you provide us with your contact information, we will follow up with you after receiving your feedback. So we hope that this will also be a helpful avenue, and you don't have to remember about it because, like I said, I'll include it in my signature. So you'll see it every time I send an email. It'll be a reminder that you can provide feedback at your convenience if you have that. And I'm going to hand it off to James. We got 1 whole minute left for you, James.
Woohoo. Okay, yes. At the end, you're probably looking at your next meeting or whatever, but speaking of ideas that we've heard from you that are nice ideas or whatever, but they don't mean much until you actually do them. There's been plenty of requests of like, what the heck's going on with the one system? How do I do this? How do I do that? And we have been lacking in our training materials and help for you as you try to help Oregonians navigate their benefits and get into the one system. So an idea that is only about almost a year old is to have a one office hour. So we're getting some subject matter experts. In fact, Antonio has also agreed to be part of this. And we've got some of the one technical experts. We'll start off this first meeting with a little presentation on how to create a one account perhaps, but mainly it'll be for your questions. Obviously not for individual cases. We don't want to give any personal information in a public meeting, but this is for the SNAP assisters, the people who are trying to get people signed up for ERDC or TANF, because there is a good system out there to answer medical questions, but we're talking about the non-medical people here. And so I'm going to just drop a little info in the chat. Just if you want the invite, let me know. We don't have some big fancy registration system for this. It's going to keep it relatively informal. We'll have some questions. We won't go completely down a rabbit hole. If we need to do that, we'll work with you individually. But I'm looking forward to seeing how this works. We may make it monthly. We'll see. So I hope if you work with the one system, let me know, and I'll see you on October 19th. And I think I took us a few seconds over.
That's all right, James. Thanks so much. I also put a link for the partner survey form into chat where you can grab it there. With that, we are at the end of our meeting and I would like to conclude it. But if you do have questions, feedback, maybe we couldn't take in the last few moments because we were running out of time, James and I will hang out for a little bit. If you'd like to ask those questions or share that now, that would be great. Otherwise, we'll see you next month. Thanks so much for being here.